Hello BookTube, this is Weekly Reads. I've had a very weird reading week. My reading weekend was atrocious. But over the course of the work week, my reading picked up markedly, and it ends on a very, very high note. So let's get going. So I started the reading week with Waterloo Sunrise, London from the 60s to Thatcher by John Davis. This is a history of London in the 60s and 70s. And instead of being a narrative history, the book is an essay collection that looks at discrete aspects of London history in the 60s and 70s. I bailed a little ways into the fourth essay. The first essay is an introduction and looks at the myth of swinging London, a period between 1966 and 1968 where London appeared to be a more open, a more experimental city than it had been in the decades prior. And Davis looks at how this myth came about, what social and economic changes were happening in London at this time that sort of inspired, that gave some truth to this myth. The second essay is about the proliferation of strip clubs in London. The third is about Beta, which was a chain of boutique stores that tried to become a department store before ultimately going out of business. And the essay looks at the vagaries of boutiques and department stores. The fourth essay is about restaurants in London. And by the fourth essay, I was bored. Again, this isn't a narrative history, it's an essay collection that is highly academic, it's highly detailed, highly in the weeds. And while somebody who was a student of 20th century London would love this book, would probably wish they had written it, if not using it for a source, it's kind of for a general reader, it's dull and boring. So on Saturday, my reading woes continued with The Focal Form and Emptiness by Ruth Ozeki. This is a novel about grief and coming to terms with grief. At the beginning of the novel, a man named Kenji is killed in an accident, leaving behind his wife Annabelle and their son Benny. As the years pass, Benny seems to either develop the ability to, or the delusion that he can, speak to inanimate objects, including the book that narrates this story. I was like, I'll say I was liking The Book of Form and Emptiness. I wasn't loving it. There were some pretty good passages, but there is a scene. Benny asks the book to narrate his parents' first meeting. At the time, Annabelle was dating a jazz band leader who was an emotional abuser. In the scene, he and his band are doing a gig. Annabelle is there watching, and he asks her to come up on stage and sing, even though she is not a professional singer. She is a grad student, I want to say, trying to get studying not computer science, library science. Although she could also have been an undergrad. But I think like if you specifically do library sciences, I think you would do like master's. But anyway, whether she was an undergrad or a grad student, she basically had to go on stage and sing a song for which she was not prepared to sing, just thus cementing her boyfriend at the time being a jerk, an asshole. Kenji was there. He was playing in the band. They meet, or Kenji and Annabelle meet. They hit it off. They go to Annabelle's place. They have a one-night stand that proceeds to a decade-plus long relationship, if not marriage. I'm not entirely sure how long the relationship was before they got married. They were married when he died, though. But anyway, and this scene was so uncomfortable, so it threw me out of the book. I mean, it's one of those instances where a scene, a moment, just throws me out of the book, and I can never find my way back in, and I have to bail on it. And so I did. Oh. So I did pick this book up for two reasons. One is that it did win the Women's Prize for Fiction, and I've been having a desire to really engage with book prizes or literary prizes lately. I see a lot of booktubers or watch a lot of booktubers who are really engaged in literary prizes, the Women's Prize, the Booker Prizes, the Pulitzers, others, and it's like just so fascinating and so engrossing watching them just engage with the prizes, engaging with the books, their prediction videos, their reviews. It's just, I kind of want to participate too, but I just don't have much luck. Or maybe not quite the right prizes that I'm engaging with. I am thinking of doing something with the Kendall History Prize this year and also from last year, but that's a different video. I also picked this up because I have some reading history with Ruth Ozeki. I read about a decade ago her novel A Tale for the Time Being, which is about an author who's a stand-in for Ruth Ozeki, who finds a diary in a bottle written by a young Japanese woman who, at the end of the diary, if I remember correctly, it implies that she is, after she sends the diary out to sea, that she will end her own life. And she basically tells of her family's life in Japan, how the family's kind of on a downward spiral, the serious bullying she gets at school, that her one shining beacon is an aunt or a great aunt who is a Buddhist nun, and the author trying to figure out who this young woman was and what happened to her. And I think my reaction to the book, to A Tale for the Time Being, was that I liked it, but I didn't love it. Although I think as time went on, I think I liked it more than I actually did, or something. I mean, it's been over a decade since I read it, or nearly a decade since I read it, and I haven't read it again since, so I don't exactly know. But I think I thought I liked it more than I did. And so anyway. But yeah, this was rather a disappointment. I'll come back to it hopefully, and I can get over that scene and maybe not find myself thrown out of the book. The next spell is even more disappointing, and that is The Wild Places by Robert Macfarlane. This is a book about Macfarlane's journeys to find the remaining wild places on the British Isles. each chapter is in part Macfarlane's journey to and through the locations he's focusing on, as well as extemporizing about life, science, the environment, society, culture, art, philosophy. Very similar to Underland, his most recent book, or at least I think it's his most recent book, that I read for the 2020 BookTube Prize and absolutely loved. And this book is very similar in style and not quite in content, but I mean, it's very, like Macfarlane has, I think, a set style. And I just didn't get on with it. I was just, yeah. And that was disappointing. I didn't connect to this book nearly as much as I'd hoped I would. Um, and I think by this point, in thinking back on it, this past weekend was not mentally pleasant for me. The past few weeks hasn't been mentally pleasant either. And I think this weekend it was, yeah, I had a bit of a depressive episode, I would think. And when that happens, it is incredibly hard for me to get into the books I'm reading. So I think that could have happened. And so on Monday, I didn't read anything. I took the time that I normally read and did some painting. If I do some painting, I do paint. I use pastels. They're sticks of color. You can see 2 examples of my work behind me. And so if I'm down, if I'm not mentally feeling well, painting will usually cheer me up. And this past Monday, it did its job. I had a blast. I painted one painting that turned out quite well, although I do think I probably need to pick up some darks in the near future because Terry Ludwig's V100, the infamous eggplant, really is not necessarily the most appropriate color to use as your go-to dark. I need ones that are a bit more complementary to like greens, and it's a really dark purple, and it doesn't quite work. I need more darks, more like blues, and I think even slightly reds and browns to really work more. But I mean, the painting turned out pretty good. And then I also worked on another painting that I did a few months ago that was good, but it could have used some work. And I kind of figured out that I needed to vary up the landscapes. While I did have the color that matched the color on the reference photo, it needed a little extra. And so I added some reds and some yellows and some browns to it, and it turned out quite well as well. So I was quite pleased, and the painting did make me feel better because I had a much better rest of my week. So it was positive. So then on Tuesday, I reread The Swamp Monster at Home by Catherine Carter, which is rather appropriate because as the last book I read in August, The Swamp Monster at Home was also the first book I read this month. And when I read it earlier this month, I liked it, but I didn't love it, and I certainly didn't love it as much as Larvae of the Nearest Stars, Carter's most recent poetry collection. But this rereading, I don't know what happened, but it grew a lot in my estimation. I love it. I loved the rereading. It clicked. I loved all of the poems. It was magical. Absolutely magical. I still think I prefer Larvae of the Nearest Stars, but this one it certainly is like a close second. Now, on Wednesday, I didn't get a chance to read because I had to watch the Four Children of the Apocalypse, my two nieces and two nephews, while my brother and sister-in-law and the new baby went to a doctor's appointment. And I had intended to read some of one of the latest National Geographic issues, and it didn't quite turn out how I'd hoped. So, anyway. And then yesterday and today, I've been working my way through Fullmetal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa. I just finished volume 8, so over the past 2 days, I've read the first 8 volumes. Fullmetal Alchemist is a shonen manga series featuring alchemy. It's about two brothers, Edward and Alphonse Elric, who are prodigy alchemists who attempt to human transmutation. It's an alchemical process that uses humans as ingredients. The brothers are attempting to resurrect their deceased mother. The transmutation fails and rebounds on the brothers. Edward loses a leg and Alphonse loses his body. To save Alphonse's life, Edward sacrifices his arm to transcribe Alphonse's soul onto a suit of armor. A year later, after getting automail prosthetics for his leg and arm, Edward joins the state military, given the moniker the Fullmetal Alchemist. Since then, the brothers travel across their home country of Amestris, searching for the Philosopher's Stone, an alchemical artifact reputed to be able to bypass the law of equivalent exchange, so that the brothers can restore their bodies. As the brothers travel, they uncover and become enmeshed in a long-running conspiracy that goes to the very heart of the country, to the very top of the government, and sees both brothers as well as a number of their friends and allies as important ingredients as human sacrifices in their promised day. I love this series. I'm having a ball reading these 8 volumes, and I'm looking forward to possibly finishing the series this weekend, which will be epic. I've got about 19 volumes to go, and I think if I budget the time, I should be able to read about 10 volumes a day. So this reading weekend is going to be very, very full metal. But yeah, I'm going to love it. And I will do a separate video talking about Fullmetal Alchemist when I finish the series up this coming week, probably. Although I will mention Fullmetal Alchemist again next weekly reads as well. So after I finish Fullmetal Alchemist, I have 2 books that I think I will try to get to over the next work week, or whenever I get the time to read, like once I finish Fullmetal Alchemist. First up will be Frisk by Dennis Cooper. This is one of the books I'm reading for Shorty September, and it's one of the books that I've had in my possession that I haven't gotten to yet forever. So it's well past the time I finally get around to reading this book. And I'll also be reading Shark by Dean Crawford. This is one of the animal books from Reaction. It's a series of books that looks at a certain animal through history, natural history, biology, economics, literary criticism, social criticism, so on and so forth. I have a rather mixed relationship with this series. There are a lot of volumes that I really enjoy, particularly the most recent ones, and some of the earliest ones that I'm not so sure about, but yeah, hopefully Shark will um, be one of the ones that I really like and will maybe inspire me to pick up more of the series or collect more of the series. So that's what I've been reading this week and what I will be reading next week, hopefully. Um, so as far as videos are concerned, I'm probably going to do. Obviously, I'll be doing a Fullmetal Alchemist video once I finish that up. I'll do some tag videos, um, of course, weekly reads, and I think I might also do a video talking about my Kindle history reading project. I'm wanting to read, like right now, the finalists from last year. I've already read one of them, The Horde by Murray Favreau. I'll be getting to Survivors by Rebecca Clifford sometime this month, and possibly I'll get to Blood on the River by Marjolaine Cars in October, I think will be my plan. But we'll see. And then also about my plan to maybe pick up the shortlist from this year's Kindle History Prize and reading them, maybe not before the long list or the finalists are announced, but kind of reading them through the rest of the year and see how I make out with the shortlist and finalists and even the eventual winner. But anyway, so yeah, that's my plans for next week. And as far as also with Fullmetal Alchemist, since I'm kind of reading that also for Shorty September, that there are 3 movies that I'll try to rewatch the first movie and then get to the second and third films when they come out this month. So I'll try to do that. And I think I'm rambling, so I will sign off for now. So thank you, BookTube. Have a great rest of your evening and weekend, and I will see you on Monday. So until then, thank you and stay safe.